Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the show we call the Inworld Review. Uh, we're in a virtual world, basically, or many grids called Opensim, and we look at arts, destinations, and creativity, and a bit of education even in virtual worlds. And yeah, um, I'll get on with introducing the show today. My name is Mal Burns, and I'm joined in the studio by, first of all, James Atlloud, who's on my right. He's the one who fiddles with all the knobs and makes sure we do a better job than just talking heads. So, welcome, James.
Oh, it's good to be here, Mal. I should have a little audio cue of a fiddler since I fiddle.
Right. Yeah, indeed. I won't go there, although come to think of it, well, our guest last week had a few
Yeah, yeah,
images
yeah.
of fiddling going on, but I don't know if they're safe for work. Right, okay, and on my other side, on my left, my wonderful co-host and convener of the Hypercritical Safari, in fact, Thirza Ember.
Hello, Mal. Hello, James. Nice to be here again.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see we're in the giggly season already. Very good, very good. Okay, and also here with us, we'll be talking to her in a little while after the news, is Val Librarian Greg. Welcome, Val.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Mal, with all of you on the In-World Review.
You say that now. We'll see.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
ready.
you don't know what you're letting yourself in for. I'm not sure I'm all. I've got a new mask. I've got a new mask on, but the rest, I think my brain's gone despite the mask. Right. Okay. Well, let's get started in this case. Just trying to think if we have any. Don't know. I think what we're going to do. We got lots of overlapping stuff this week, and we should get things through things quite quickly. What I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to hand over to Thirza first for our little sub show called Hypergrid Happenings. So if we get that screen up for James, and I would say over to you, Thirza.
Yeah, hypergrid happenings once again. This week we got a few interesting things happening around the hypergrid on different places. Each week we try to show you something that happens either a one-off event or something that is a weekly event. This is a one-off thing that's happening on March the 15th. The first thing I'd like to show you, this is next Wednesday. It's a virtual beach crawl, and that's over there on My Virtual Beach Grid, which is a very fun place. You can win some money if you like, some glow bits, and they're going to be jumping from beach to beach. It's quite a long thing. I think it's about 4 hours long. Yes, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So you can enjoy some music, some beach, some beachwear, and generally have some fun over there on My Virtual Beach Grid. The second thing I like to tell you about is an event that happens every week, and that is the belly dancing class. I know James ought to do this more.
I
James,
really
don't you
should.
think?
I really do.
I really feel like you're not developing your skills as much
Uh-huh.
as you could.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah. He's just, he just hasn't have that whole hip thing going
No,
quite right yet.
that's
But I'm
right.
pretty
well,
sure you could.
we had something on our news show earlier, which was a bit like that. It's sort of yes, physical pole dance training,
Ooh.
yeah,
Anyway.
motion capture, and yeah, we'll
Oh
get
my gosh.
yeah.
So anyway, Cataplexia obviously running that over on her. If you've never seen it, Manipura sim is just lovely. It's one of the prettiest sims out there. That's over on Alternate Metaverse Grid, AMV. And as you can see, it's on between 10 and 11 o'clock on Tuesdays. That's worth having a go at. Just a bit of fun, really, but very delightful place. Next thing I wanted to talk about was a motto party, that means a themed party, and this is happening over on the Public World Grid. And our good friend Lauru will be the DJ, along with Marina Bauer, also doing some music spinning there. It says Velk Verkeerd, which I believe means a topsy-turvy world. So that's happening on Friday. So if you want a bit of fun on Friday and you want to learn a bit of German, that's the place to go. And the final thing I wanted to talk about was this, which is Disneyland, which is just brilliant. It's by Spax Orion, who has been around a few years now, 7 or 8 years in Opensim. And it's just brilliant fun. Loads and loads of rides. You have to go there with the Legacy Avatar, which is not much of a sacrifice because, you can. We all can if we want to. And you go on the rides. There's, I think, 7 or 8 roller coasters. It's just loads and loads of fun things. He talks about it being very scary and don't go if you're easily offended. I didn't see anything that would shock a normal person. So have some fun going there. And I'd like to also show you the sim that he has made. If you can see this poster, because what he's done is, because so many people are like, oh, I have to have my mesh avatar. I have to have my mesh clothes and everything. Well, so very kindly, Spax organised a sim right here on OS Grid, where there's all kinds of outfits that you can use. Very smart move. So these are all legacy items, so that you can have an avatar that you enjoy wearing, but you can still go on all the rides. So if you do go there with a mesh avatar of any kind, or you're wearing prims or even prim hair, it doesn't work. You have to you eject it from the sim because it messes with the scripts, I guess. But it's worth it if you can make that little sacrifice to not wear any prims. It's really, really worth going. I loved it.
Take a visit there actually. So this one's on OS Grid, and
this is just the shop.
That's what I mean.
The previous shop. Yeah.
We might have a beer there or something for me. Right.
You never know.
XOAOX is the name of the region. So
that's right.
You need to remember those 5 letters. But good place to stop there a little bit. Yeah.
And of course that's the name of the grid he has to. Well, that's not the name of it, but it's the address of it. So we can put all those addresses later on in the comments so you can see them. And so this is open anytime. It's in beta at the moment, but I'm pretty sure it's close to being perfected, and really, really fun. So loads to do in Opensim this week, and I recommend you all to go. If you do have a special event, a project, a party, an opening, if you're teaching a class or something's coming up on your grid that you would like to share, do let us know. You can DM me here in Opensim, or you can contact me in Facebook or Discord or MeWe. You can find me pretty much anywhere, and we'd love to add you to our Hypergrid happenings. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Thirza, for Hypergrid happenings there. While we're on the subject, I'll just give a quick plug to Opensim World. I've got their page on screen at the moment. You can look at regions there, and as you can see, there's a little tab here for events as well. And there's an event calendar, for example. They don't for some reason they don't normally start till US time, so it's not very good on other parts of the world. But as you can see, lists of events happening in Opensim all day long. You can get a RSS feed of those events, and while I'm on our stuff, we have the Hypergrid Creators and Explorers Discord server, and this feed from Opensim World actually appears as an incoming feed on that server too, so you can get alerts from that. I think that's it. An authoritative site, and if you just need somewhere to go, you can click on regions and look at the regions. The first ones up tend to be the ones with the most users at a given point. For example, Magic at the moment has got 22 people in it. Tropical Tunage has got 15 users. We get the idea, basically. So a good site to look at, and of course you can sign your name, add your own region, and you can even go to a forum there and talk with your friends there if they're on the Opensim system, so to speak. Right, okay. Moving on. Sorry if I'm a bit disjointed today, but it's been a busy week. It's my pleasure to welcome Val Librarian Greg, who I mentioned earlier, to the show today. So welcome again, Val.
Thank you, Mal. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Right, I think it's the first time you've been on this particular show, isn't it?
Yes.
So,
Yes, although I've met you many, many times over the years.
well, you're often on our safaris too when time permits and stuff like that. And it's just anecdotally, when I first, it must be nearly 20 years ago now, I went into Second Life. Um, I think, no, it wasn't called EduCause. It was one of the education islands, quite a small one, and I was part of the community there before I moved to Chilbo. But I think one of the first groups I ever joined in Second Life was the Second Life Librarians, I suppose it was called, or
Yes.
something
Yes.
like that. I'm a big hoarder of media and things, a collector, not a hoarder, a
Right.
collector, but I refer to two of my walls as my library. you know
Love it.
it's the word that comes off my tongue when trying to describe the complete mess of it all. Dustbin sounds a bit crude, you see, so library fits. Right.
Right.
A slight anecdotal there. So I did meet quite a few people, possibly you. How long, well, that's really my first question is, how long have you been in virtual worlds, per se? I mean, were you in anything before Second Life, or was Second Life your real start?
I pretty much started in Second Life because of all the librarians who were early adopters. I
Right.
joined in 2006, so that's going on 20 years, and I immediately got involved with the community virtual library and all the librarians. It was called the Alliance Virtual Library initially, but then it
Yeah, that's
evolved
the
into
one.
the community.
Yeah, I remember now, Alliance. But yeah, that was a good word, actually. Yeah, I remember that. Right, so, well, that's a long haul. Maybe just tell us a little about what you did in Second Life and then your reasons for moving to Opensim. Although, actually, I suspect you're one of these people, like my friend Leah, who jumps between the two constantly.
Yes.
Yeah, but maybe start with Second Life. That's a good, like many people in Opensim, they did, Second Life was there long before Opensim
Right.
existed. So, yeah.
Oh, yes. And for over 15 years, I've worked with the community virtual library, started there. And then I moved to really explore all of the different open sim worlds and even the VR platforms that are evolving. James here, I've been with him on many virtual reality tours to compare, the future of the metaverse. But
Ah,
I still believe that the open sim grids and what you can do in worlds like that, the building tools are all right there at your fingertips. So, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I began in 2006. That's quite a while ago. Then I
yeah.
earned my PhD in information science with a dissertation on factors contributing to the adoption of virtual worlds by librarians. So I've been very focused on libraries, but I love you have books on the set out here. You got all these books around us. Books, they're not the king of the information hierarchy anymore. That toppled at the turn of the century. Most content is now born digital. So, as a librarian, I wanted to jump ahead into what does that mean as far as libraries? Are they still important? And I truly believe they're more important than ever because information landscapes are constantly changing. So I explore across the metaverse and try to figure out about all forms of media beyond simply print, and wear these books on my head sort of as a reminder and a tribute to the traditions of the past.
Yeah,
Sure.
because also if you wear your laptop on your head and you drop it, it,
I know. Oh, it
it
can
will
be.
break.
Yes, it's problematic. True.
I
So,
must say, when I first went to Second Life, one of the things, this is probably related to the fact I joined the libraries group. Actually, I was just hanging around, enjoying it all for a while. But when I actually sort of started, getting four prims and making four walls, I was like, "Ooh, I've got four walls. Where I put them?" But one of my first thoughts was to, scan, things from my collection, like art and counterculture literature and stuff, and sort of exhibit it all in the world. Now, in fact, that was such a formidable task. It really never happened. But the idea that the virtual plane, as it were, was the future library. The future
yes.
to put stuff like art galleries too. People will walk into your place and they see things, and you would be the curator. So it would be an essence of you, but the information there would have a much wider range, wider brief, so to speak. And yeah, it's a big job. But even prior to Second Life, I had some people who used what was VRML and the standard web pages to sort of well, what at the time were basically, I suppose you call counterculture documentation, but they scan text, they'd have pages, they'd have illustrations, but more to the point, using VRML, they'd have a basic city, and there was a museum and there was a library. And
Yes.
there was a slight distinction there because the museum was definitely archived, whereas the library was referenced. But the web itself, ever since it began, has been ideal for being a library. I mean, originally it was just online information and then there's small little pictures and things, maybe a bit of communication, but it was never really intended to be more than a global archive of information. And so when coming into somewhere like Second Life as you did and saying, right, we'll be the library, we'll bring the libraries here, it just seems such a natural transition from the web to virtual. Um,
Yes.
do you
Truly
see
it is.
do you see anything like that still happening? I mean, obviously you're still going and all that, but um, do you find anything in the virtual worlds community? And by that, I don't mean Opensim or Second Life. I mean, but all the other places you've been looking, as you mentioned to me. Um, do you see this happening again in any way, like groups of librarians or libraries forming in online spaces that are sort of almost, shall we say, new to the new to the idea?
Oh, absolutely. The internet has revolutionized our lives and libraries, and the Digital Archivist of the United States has pointed out a lot of problems with the future of libraries because, as you mentioned, all of these changing formats. From print used to be the primary format, and now, we have hundreds of different kinds of digital formats, virtual assets. And so archiving these as they're all changing and the hardware that we have to read these digital formats also becomes obsolete. This is a huge problem for the future of civilization. And so that's become mainly my passion is digital citizenship. And that, in the old days, you'd go into a library and they'd help you find it. Well, now it's up to you. You're personally responsible for your incoming information, even little kids. So, and that's a huge responsibility. And it happened so quickly that a lot of people don't even understand it. I do like the anonymous quote that the internet is not, is, it really is, people think it's a library, but it may be a library, but the problem is all the books are on the floor.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so
it's
true.
really hard to find what you want, and it's constantly changing. It's
Yeah.
fluid, accuracy and authority. You don't know if it's a 12-year-old boy in his garage that made that slick website,
Well,
that's not even true. So librarians are still needed, and they're constantly learning ways to figure out how to archive and how to teach the next generation to become really good digital citizens
yeah.
and take on that responsibility.
So basically, I imagine you will create a distinction in your mind, at least, between the role of the archivist and the role of the curator. Because the archivist probably wants to keep everything, like me, whereas the curator is the one who actually chooses and possibly filters the information. Not in a bad way necessarily, but
Or at least points people towards what they really need and what is a reliable source.
My Twitter feed is based on links in a framework of it used to be easy, it's harder now, but basically this is virtual world's area of interest. I don't put anything else in there, and I don't flood it with every anecdotal piece of news that I find on the web. I try and say, right, well, I'm curating this. This is a recommendation of good links to look at this week. If I was a pure archivist, I'd be probably trying to run some kind of database that filtered everything else and just indexed it regardless of what was on it, which I think these days, with the information overload we have, I think you'd agree would be rather irresponsible.
Yes, it's a huge problem. Too much information is as much of a problem as too little. Prior to the Gutenberg press, there was too little access. Well, the Gutenberg parentheses have closed, and now we're on the other side of them, and it's too much information. But you point out all the different roles, from acquisition, curation, storage, retrieval, archival. All of those roles now we all have in our hands, but librarians have been trained in what all those roles are and how to be successful at them, where it can be really hard for people who don't understand those the changing information landscapes that we live in.
And maybe not aware that an algorithm recommending the next thing you look at is not always the best way to find out more and more accurate information.
Oh, it gives you what you want.
Yeah.
Well, and that's not always good for us.
No, it's like we all have a personal dashboard of incoming information, and that leads to confirmation bias, which means you only associate with people that really agree with you. We're all subject to it. And then your dashboard becomes narrower and narrower, and you end up not learning, because we learn, as Vygotsky has always said, through collision of ideas with others, not through agreement.
Yeah. It's what they call the echo chamber, isn't it? Where, sort of people just retweet things for the hell of it because they sort of agree with it, or they like the picture or something. I'm trying to find a very good example where the algorithm there'll be two meanings to a word, and I found that, I can't remember what caused it, but I found at one point I was getting endlessly spammed, I would say, by links to gardening sites. Now, I don't even have a garden.
Right.
Let alone a particular interest in gardening, but some algorithm had followed me to maybe a couple of places that somehow bordered on gardening, and had assumed therefore I was interested in gardening, though probably all I was doing was looking up the definition of daffodil or something, I don't know, but it had come from somewhere, and it just couldn't stop it. I block one source and another one pops up. It's it's in there, and I think that is the real problem, because it's possibly going to be the same with these chat.
Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch more problems arising with AI.
And the pictures, it's filtering stuff out, and arguably as a research tool, it's doing a very good job. But it's like everything we do digitally, humans have to oversee it and put the input in. There's no computer yet that can actually create something new out of thin air. All computers can do is crunch through so much information that they come up with something that looks brilliantly new, maybe, but actually isn't at all. And that, I think, that is, becoming a worry. And I think we need libraries, or some of the functions of libraries, even more, and particularly, from the curation point of view. I've got on one of our screens here, I've logged into your, well, in fact, we'll take a quick break here. When I log into your site at Community Virtual Library, it's called, communityvirtuallibrary.org. is the name of your site there.
Yes.
On your front page, which is not the one I've got loaded, but on your front page, there's actually a video. And I'm going to play that one now, just so people can see that. And, well, I don't know how much is on it, but obviously if there's a gap, we can talk over it. But otherwise, I'll just play it. It's only 2.5 minutes, so we'll be okay.
Sure, I think it's a brief overview.
Welcome to the Community Virtual Library, or CVL, a real library in the virtual world. What is a virtual world library? Today, with network digital culture, We spend much of our time in digital virtual spaces, with access to information in our pockets on mobile devices. But where do you go to learn how to navigate this digital landscape? Social media and online content leads you in 1,000 directions. CVL is a hub for digital citizens to meet real librarians and find help. We began in Second Life in 2007. We've expanded into Opensim on the Kitely and Avicon grids. And our librarians and educators also build, teach, play, and explore together a myriad of other social virtual reality platforms. Because we all know when it comes to digital culture, one constant is change. In Second Life, come inside the main library and find links to all kinds of information in all formats, from classic literature to help with new media in 3D. Need to learn about content creation or content curation? Are you interested in virtual reality and augmented reality and wonder where all this is headed? Do you want to
So Mal's sound is cut out for me now. It's
real
back.
people and real experts in new media while preserving the love of, you guessed it, books and reading. The Community Virtual Library strives to connect the virtual world communities and its citizens with immersive learning environments, events, programs, and content that is high quality and relevant to the needs of each unique visitor. Visit us in any worlds where we have a presence. We have main library buildings, event spaces, auditoriums, and exhibit areas, as well as areas just for socializing and fun for all kinds of information groupies. CVL welcomes anyone to come visit us in the virtual world of Second Life, Opensim, and other social virtual environments where we are continually establishing a presence. Come join CVL, and the technology changes won't be so isolating or so difficult. We're all in this together. CVL, a hub for virtual world learning communities.
Well, that kind of rounds up what we're talking about, really, doesn't it? Curious, one place I forgot to go, although I heard it mentioned in there, was actually where our real home studio was for a long while, the Avicon grid. You have a presence there too, don't you?
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
I should have gone and filmed something there, because I did film some stuff, which we'll see in a minute or two, which is I went to Cookie 2, basically, and one of the other regions on Kitely. So, yeah.
Great.
I could have got more, but I've got enough. We got enough to talk about anyway. So back on your website here. So I'm not welcome to the main branch of the community library. Read more. Read. This is last year, Tuesday, March 29th. Oh, we're near. Is there one this year as well?
Oh, yes. I actually presented quite a
Virtuality
few
Media
different.
Conference?
Yes, we
Oh,
have
sorry, I think I
presentations.
lost your voice for a minute.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, let's see if it's Discord still looks like
I'm hearing you well, Val. Mel,
Hear me
yours,
well?
yours
Okay.
is cutting in and out. Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Voice issues always happen with technology. And
I am.
yes, I present quite often at different webinars and conferences, and so do my colleagues. Usually, in that one, the Library 2.0 conference, I tell a lot about changing librarianship. And so, yes, we have a YouTube channel. We also have a YouTube playlist with a lot of presentations on the VWEC YouTube channel.
Mal, I could hear you a moment ago. Oh, he can't hear us.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
So Val, do you want to take us through some of your slides?
Oh, sure, I can do that, and we'll hope that
Yeah.
Mel can rejoin us.
Yep.
Well, I've got the
Sure.
first slide up. Can you hear me all right?
Yes,
Yep.
I
hear,
hear you
hear you
fine.
well. Yep.
Okay, well, I put the slide up just to show our main branch of the Community Virtual Library. And our goal has always been to support learning and education in virtual worlds. But this 2 years ago in 2022, with a lot of other colleagues and educators, we decided to form the Virtual Worlds Education Consortium because we realized a lot of people were struggling in isolation and didn't realize that there were educators out there and what the high quality simulations that they had built. So now we are totally partnered and supporting VWEC, the Virtual Worlds Education Consortium. So I've changed to a slide that shows, and I believe James will share these three links, our three websites. We have the Community Virtual Library, which has been going on now for many years, the VWEC, which is a consortium for anybody interested in learning in 3D in virtual worlds. And you don't have to be an educator, it can be just lifelong learning. And then the overarching parent organization, which is a charity that is going to house these projects, is called metaverselibraries.org. And we have a Google group too that for email, Google group Metaverse Libraries, so that we can help network people across the virtual worlds and the various grids. And I love Opensim. I've presented at the Opensim Community Conference many times. Our goal is to better collaborate and better network, with the Hypergrid Safari, with the Opensim world, the directory. We can't all be everywhere, in all these worlds.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
And
But
and
together,
Opensim, yeah, and Opensim offers a kind of a much bigger challenge than Second Life, which is, I always think of it as an analogy. Second Life is like New York City, if you will,
right?
and instead, Opensim is like the West. All these. If you think about the
Right.
West when it was first opened up, all those small communities, sometimes operating almost in isolation. There's
Yes.
there's communication between them in a way, but it's somebody new coming from New York City and getting off the stagecoach in the middle of the town. It's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Oh,
where am
what a
I?
good
Where is
analogy.
everything?
Yeah.
Little towns and little outposts way
Exactly.
out there.
And who
Yeah.
don't always appreciate New York ways. And that's another big challenge in Opensim, because that can often be the problem, that people have chosen to leave Second Life because they don't appreciate the big city style of doing things. So you have to kind of persuade people to get involved with things. And that
Yes.
can be tricky too. So I think it's marvelous what you're doing. And there are so many educators in Opensim, but it's a challenge for them to know each other and to find each other and to kind of try and operate together, because they're not in competition, obviously, but
Exactly.
they need to be in collaboration.
Right.
Absolutely,
And
I
there's
think
so
it's
much
wonderful.
reinventing the wheel because they don't realize
Exactly.
someone else has already done this and could show me how.
Yes,
So
and can give
rather
you the
than
resources maybe too.
exactly. And rather than circulating books, which was what I did many years ago as a school librarian, I want to circulate communities and simulations and avatars, people and their strength. There are the resources. So to that end, we're creating databases, a member directory, as well as a virtual worlds database of the
Right.
simulations so people can find them. And that's a challenging job, but very worthwhile because it's necessary. Or people are just out there in, like you say, those little outposts and towns all alone.
That's true. Well, they sometimes they're alone, and sometimes they do associate with other people, but it's quite limited, the amount of people who are aware, as you said, because there's so much happening in OpenSim. We were talking before. People are building these immense, beautiful, wonderful sims that there's just so much going on them. You just don't even have time to see everything that's out here. And amongst those things are many educational places. So
Absolutely.
to get them kind of all within one group so that people can find them all, that would be really, really great.
Yes, and it's a lot of volunteers that have in the past realized that this was necessary, and now they're coming on board to say, all right, I want to join this because I want to help spread the word and the potential. Because in a virtual world, you come in with a purpose rather than just a disposable app, scroll, delete, and staring at your cell phone. There's this
Yeah.
sense of presence and purpose. And if I move to my next slide, you'll see it has started with Kitely. We now have an ambassador for VWEC in Kitely with quarterly meetings to help people in Kitely better network and share what they're doing there. And we'd like to bring that same model to all the OpenSim communities if they want
So
to join us and get on the database.
so what does the ambassador do?
Well, what that means is the leadership team, which is myself and quite a few people that I've known for many years as educators and creator subject experts in Second Life and virtual worlds, we can't be in all these places all the time. I mean, we would never sleep. So what we need is someone in each world to sort of be the go-to person for the consortium and kind of hold the quarterly meetings, because we all need to understand where this information is, or we're just
So
searching, endlessly.
right. So what kind of, because I came to an event that I think I think Cooper Swizzle did that event maybe a week ago where he showed
Yes.
some Sims. Is that the kind of quarterly meeting you're talking
Oh,
about?
no, 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 that was just a
Okay.
field trip. That was just a
Right.
field trip to get people to see where we are. The quarterly meetings will be held, and you can see the pavilion on this slide. And this is on a sim called the Content Collaborators. And
Right.
Selby Evans, Thinkerer, we all know and love, he's been a champion of virtual worlds for years. He has this mega sim on Kitely, and that is where our outpost is for the Virtual Worlds Education Consortium. The quarterly meetings will be 4 times a year on, I believe it's the second Monday of the month at 9 a.m. The next one is, I believe it's April the 17th. And those meetings are a chance for everyone to get together, ask their questions, see how they fit in, because we've found you don't want to twist avatar arms and say, oh, would you come and help us with this project? No, rather, find what they're already doing, what they love to do, and just share it.
Yeah,
Just share
that
what
is the
they're
best
already
way.
doing. That's the best way to get a volunteer. So what we do is if they join our database and find out what they love to do, whether it's build or script or take people on tours or teach, whatever it is they like to do, we'll promote that through the consortium, and then it's a win-win for everyone. The ones that are teaching, and the ones that are learning, and the ones who just want to share and advocate for virtual worlds as a viable educational platform.
Right.
That's what he's doing. What Bruce Groves Cooper is doing in Kitely, and he just started this year, so this is fairly new.
Oh, so
And
he's new to Brightly, or
no,
he's
he's been in Kitely a long time, and I've known him.
oh,
I
okay.
graduated with him in 2010 at the Certificate of Virtual Worlds from the University of Washington. So I've known him for years, but he just joined the consortium, and it just was like a light bulb. He was like, "Yes, this is what we need to reach out to other people." So getting people to realize that only together can we all really share what it is that we do, sustainable growth for the future of these virtual worlds really has to be documented and archived, or they'll just fizzle. So
That's
that takes a
true.
lot of teamwork, and that's why Bruce has gotten involved, and we'd like that model to share to the other various virtual world platforms across the Open Sims.
Would
So
be
we do
cool.
have this in Kitely, and on my next slide, let's see here if this is the next one. We have many projects in Kitely. I think, did I get to the? Let me move on ahead to this slide. This is one of Bruce's builds. It's the Cave of Lascaux in France, and this really
Oh,
shows you that
yeah.
we can go back in time. Anything, you can create anything in a virtual world. So he takes people through this to show them just how you can go back in time, you can travel into these great different places. But then he takes us into other training models that he's a trainer for different businesses, and so he's building training models for various nonprofits and building things for business. But he also wants to show that it can be for anything, any subject content area, from math, science, history. All of these different kinds of builds are possible. So that's what he took us to first, was the Cave of Lascaux. But I also put one here by another creator that's part of the consortium, and her name is Moon Adamant. I don't know if you know her
Right.
in Kitely. She took us
No.
to an amazing historical simulation of
Ah, the
Singapore.
Singapore sim. Yes, I know
Yes,
that one.
in
Yeah, that's a good sim.
1825. And what a great, example of how you can go back in time. There are non-player characters, NPCs, that tell you all the story, and you're just completely immersed in that time
And
period.
Opensim is full of places just like that that have
Exactly.
historic. And many times we've had the privilege on the safari to see places like that, and that the kind of skill level is something, as you say, that should be shared, because I'm sure the kind of thing would be very interesting to educators. There's
Yeah,
loads of people doing that kind of stuff.
the ancient African
Exactly.
cities. Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. And that cave looks
Yes, and
fascinating.
yes, we want to get more of these on the database. And then I have several educational groups that also want to go on tours and then discuss how they can be used for education. We also partner our Metaverse Libraries parent organization. Another project we partner with is called the Antique Pattern Library. And it's out of Amsterdam, and it's a magnificent library of old antique patterns that are scanned that would be lost if we weren't digitizing them, so that we can get authentic textures and patterns and pictures of what life was like throughout all these historical periods. Not that we ever want to be the costume cops, and say, oh, that outfit doesn't match, the 1600s, but it's a teachable moment to talk about what is true to the time period and what's
It's true.
not. And
Otherwise,
so,
you get a contamination in there that
exactly,
misleads. Yeah, it turns into
right,
Bridgerton at a certain
right.
point.
Yeah, so we've got that, and that's also in Kitely. The Antique Pattern Library is in Kitely on Cookie 2, and so if there are people that are interested in old manuscripts and old patterns and textures, and a lot of these we can access free, and they're authentic, things that you would make tapestries and furniture for various historical periods, they can go to the Antique Pattern Library. But
That's
I put
excellent.
another slide up here because we also have in Kitely, and this, I mentioned earlier, my passion has become changing literacy and digital citizenship. We have a digital citizenship museum with all kinds of rooms, everything from cybersecurity and privacy to teaching digital citizenship to children, to
So, what do you mean when you say digital citizenship? What's
okay.
that meaning?
I also have, I wrote a book on this topic, and I'll share that in a moment, but there's a lot of information online about digital citizenship. And basically, it's the umbrella word under which all of the new responsibilities we have as individuals when we're online. And that's everything from what we just talked about, curation, how we're all curators now. User generated content, there's so much more of that than traditional media in print. We're all what Alvin Toffler, he's a futurist, who way back in 1985 predicted this. We are prosumers. We both consume information and we produce it. I know kids who have YouTube channels and they're putting, their Minecraft videos on every day. We are producing and consuming content, not just reading and writing. So we're prosumers, and that means we have to figure out how to be ethical, how to be responsible. And kids, they are using all of these tools like TikTok. And they're young. They don't realize about cybersecurity and
Right, of
privacy,
course not.
data mining. All of our information is being mined off of our cell phones, without even our permission. And the legal system, laws are trying to really keep up with all this changing
But I
information.
guess they're lagging behind quite a
They're
bit
lagging
because
behind. Yes.
they have no idea. Yeah,
Yes.
that makes
So
sense.
if you go to the DQ Institute is one place where you can find all of the umbrella of what is digital citizenship, and how do we learn to be ethical, and how do we evaluate the onslaught of information we're bombarded with every day. And another good source for teaching this is creative Common Sense Media. I wanted to say Creative Commons. That's great for copyright, but commonsensemedia.org helps parents and teachers teach digital citizenship to very young people, because it's just become critical and it's become essential. So that's
Right.
what this digital citizenship museum in Kitely is all about. What are all these elements of digital citizenship? And we can't all be experts in them. But I have a colleague who's a cybersecurity expert, and I can reach out to him, and he does
Right.
presentations in the virtual world.
And
So
it's great that they've made a museum that people can visit anytime, just to kind of
yes,
become aware maybe much of it may be, as you say, common sense, obvious stuff to an adult, but it's a brilliant place. That I think it's a great idea that people can come and visit that. I'm just curious, why did you? Because obviously you've been doing this in Second Life, where there's quite a huge and very much captive audience. What made you think you wanted to do this in Opensim rather than just sticking with Second Life? Because a lot of people feel, especially if they're trying to do something and involve a big community, they tend to think of Second Life as there being much more return on their efforts because there's a bigger group of people. So is that the same? Is there some particular reason that brought you to Opensim rather than just sticking with the people in Kitely?
Oh, absolutely. Because
in Second Life, I mean, obviously
yes,
Kitely is
yes,
part of
right,
Opensim.
Right.
right. I understand. And I do know people who don't ever want to leave Second Life because there are more people there. They don't want to go elsewhere. But I saw early on that Second Life is a proprietary company and that the metaverse is it's not going away, it's evolving. And I don't want to get stuck in one place in one format. I want to be where the users are. And now we have VR headsets on the horizon. I explore that, and I know James Atlloud here does as well. You know, we want to know where the next generation is going to be, and that's what I care about. And so, and I feel like Opensim is the best place to be right now because, first of all, economically, there are advantages. There's also more security advantages because there aren't so many people with crazy ideas out there. You know, you can find
Not
the smaller
really.
communities.
People,
I'm sure there's
people can be crazy.
craziness.
Well,
Oh
there's
yeah,
craziness
everywhere,
everywhere. But I must say that
everywhere.
whenever somebody tells me about a griefer, it turns out to be somebody who just rezzed a few spheres on their sim or something. It's nothing
Right,
that you can really get upset about. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
so you're
right.
right. Yeah, they're generally speaking very nice people. And of course, you have such an immense possibility in terms of the space and the builds that you can make, and people have builds that they can keep it up forever rather than
Right.
worrying about tier every month. So yes,
And you can
that's a great
hypergrid jump.
advantage.
You know, you can't in
Yes.
Second Life, you're just in that one world. Open Sim gives you so many more worlds and more places to be able to jump to, you know, so there's just a lot of advantages, and I really want to stay open-minded about and I put my slide up for my recent book on meta-modernism and changing literacy. We're in a new age. Postmodernism is over, and no one has really adopted or set in stone this new term, but many people believe that the age we're currently living in is metamodernism. And so for me,
Cool.
I like to think about both the advantages. There are great advantages in metamodernism, but there's also a dark side to it, and that's why we need digital citizenship. And there's a term for changing literacy, meta literacy, because literacy is not just reading and writing anymore. It's understanding hypergrid jumping. It's understanding all of these VR terms.
All these tech
You know,
stuff.
all of that is part,
Yeah.
and even little children are learning it, you know, with places like Minecraft. And we actually are bringing the VWC into Minecraft as well, which I call the kindergarten of virtual worlds. So it's important to think about how all of this is changing and not get overwhelmed by it, because we cannot all be experts in all of these changes. But together, we can be aware. We can be
That's
aware
true.
of all of the problems
And
that we
speaking,
face.
that's true. And speaking of an expert, Mal, are you back with us? Oh,
Um, not
not
quite.
sure he is.
Yeah, I think he's been hearing us,
Maybe he'll
but
be back in a minute.
he's trying to get the screen sharing going again as well.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
You know, Minecraft is so interesting because it is by far the largest community online of any type of a virtual world. And so, you know, it's interesting to call it the kindergarten, but it's also it's very, very busy place.
Oh, I know.
Yes,
College students love it.
Yeah.
Adults love
Yep.
it too.
I love it
It's
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
great. So yeah, when we have our Minecraft club, we will help educators understand what the potential is so that they can use it wisely to help kids become digital citizens. And because as I said, that's really my passion, especially with things like AI on the horizon and how that's going to impact civilization.
Yep.
We need to be really clear and intent and purposeful with our technology tools. And so I know, James, you also have been going on these VR Exploder field trips with
Yep.
our VR headsets. And, I currently, we don't know where this is with the haptics and all of the changes with VR. Currently, I feel like a virtual world has way more advantages than my VR headset. I feel just as immersed in Opensim or Kitely or Second Life as I do in my headset. I have a nice big screen though. Like I don't think on
Yes.
a small laptop I would feel as immersed. So, we have to think about the digital divide and all of that. But in a headset, I'm very uncomfortable. I just don't have the tools at my fingertips to be
Right.
able to work and produce content. It's just not ready for mainstream, and they don't
Yeah,
even know what
agreed.
it's doing to kids, to our
And yes,
brain.
and don't you think that part of the great thing about virtual worlds is that you can be in your real existence while you can still be paying attention to the world around you and enjoying your friends in the virtual world and immersed in the virtual. A bit like going to the movies. If you go to the movies, you're immersed in the screen, but you can still eat the popcorn and talk to the
Right.
person next to you if you need to.
Yes,
The
it is
human mind
like
is
that.
capable of kind of being in both places at once, and whereas if you put the headset on, it does kind of cut you off from the reality that's around you. That
Yes. And all the tools that you want to
it's
be
got to
able
be
to use.
more sophisticated. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
And
Yes.
But
it's
also that,
interesting in open or in the 2D virtual worlds. I would be using the mouse look a lot, and so I
Right.
feel like with the mouse look experience, you can get a little bit more immersion that you might be looking for in
Right.
VR. And I do think VR still has to show its value proposition in terms
I
of
can see they'd be
communities and
useful in
learning. Yeah.
absolutely, and in certain circumstances, maybe for an hour or so, that might be absolutely what you want to have is the headset on, be doing
Very
something, or
brief
for those,
time, right?
yes, those
yes.
essential 15 minutes of doing something. But if you're going to be in world for hours on end, you really, you also want to know if your house is on fire.
Oh, I know. I can only last
Yeah,
about an hour. After an
Right.
hour, I
Agreed.
sometimes get feeling a little bit.
yeah,
It's kind of like
exactly.
matching the tool to the job. There are some things that VR would really enhance. But so far, most of them that I've gone to, it's just a disposable experience. Oh, wow, I swam with a
Yes.
dolphin. And then pop, I don't need to go back again.
But
You know,
but
it's,
that again is one of the great things about Opensim that I've noticed, and I think James would agree with me on this. Most people who come here, they stay here because it's such hard work. If you overcome the learning curve, you've made the friends, you've made the commitment, you've made the investment in time, and you've been through so much to find your place in the world that you stay. So it's not really a disposable place, and I think that's one of the great advantages of Opensim is that you'll find people who are really, if they commit to you, if they promise to do something, they do it. So
yes.
there's a much less flakiness, if you will, than a world where people are more interested in being consumers. So they come along and then they just disappear if it's too hard. So that's what I really appreciate
Yeah.
about
You
it.
know, on that
Oh, and then,
comment, there's about consumers. One of the things that I find distressing about VR in particular, but other virtual worlds, is the idea that there's no persistence. Persistence of what the participants do. I mean, now virtual
yes.
worlds are becoming scenes. They have to be designed by expert designers using Unity or other tools. And the advantage still of OpenSim is that I can visit a place, I can put down some work, and the next time I go, it'll still be there. And I feel like the trend right now is moving away from persistence for users. And my question to you, Val, do you find people are noticing that in the education and library areas?
Yes, absolutely. And the problem that educators and librarians often have is there are way too many choices for where they need to
Oh,
be.
right, right.
And the millions of apps out there, apps,
Right.
and so many of them are just disposable. And
Mm-hmm.
then, there's a whole argument between doing something on a platform like Zoom, which of course overtook education during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and a virtual world. And to me, I put it this way. When I'm sitting here on this couch, there is this sense that we are all in this place this shared place. On Zoom,
Yes.
we're not in a shared place. I'm peeking in a window and I feel separated from you. I see you're in your kitchen or you're in
And
your
it's a fake
office.
kitchen too.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And it's like, it's definitely not a shared place. It's a separate
No,
place.
I agree.
And that is such an advantage in a virtual world that you're
And
all
yes,
in the place.
and can make your avatar express yourself. Yes, you're so right. That's absolutely right. There's so much investment in the 360 degrees of being there, of being in the moment. It makes all
Yes.
the difference.
And
Absolutely.
you have that, and you can have that shared sense of presence in your VR headset. But like you mentioned, James, that persistent, sustainable place that you come back to again and again and again, and you bond with that place. VR is more like just a disposable field trip, which has its purpose, but it's not a place that you build and is your home and your community
Yeah.
yet.
And that
anyway. Who knows,
disposability,
10 years?
it makes VR sometimes to me be the Netflix of of the online experience. We're just consuming something that an artist has made. It's beautiful, but again, we're moving back to being consumers. And Opensim and Second Life, we are builders and creators.
Absolutely. And I made a slide with a few other points to ponder about this future of the metaverse. Because we've talked about Opensim it is closest to having interoperability, I believe, because of the ability to hypergrid jump. And now there's like Ready Player Me, where you can create an avatar to maybe take to your different platforms. Who knows how that's going to evolve? But avatar representation is very important. It is to me. You'll notice I wear the books on my head because I want people to know why I'm here. And I put that on my avatar, same name, same sort of brand, if you will, wherever I go.
Yep.
And then there's the other point to ponder is a lot of people come into these spaces with anonymous avatars and many disposable avatars, which game characters is one reason to be here. For me, I am very transparent. It's in my name, my purpose for being here. I'm a librarian, so it's that's part of digital citizenship, is understanding your purpose. Why are you here? And letting people know your purpose. And if it's to be a game character, that's fine. But I'm not really here as a game character. But I'm going to zoom in on my slide because I like to say whether or not you have an avatar, we all live and work in both physical and virtual spaces, and that requires
Yes.
digital citizenship.
Absolutely.
And our avatar is like just a metaphor for our real selves. And once you've bonded with it, it's just you.
Yes, absolutely. That's true. That's true. And it's important that people do look into that and think about it, especially if you have, as you say, children, because they're growing up in a world that where the rules don't seem to, not that the rules have changed, but there's a lot of very lawless behavior, put it out there.
Yes,
It's very
yes.
much the Wild West.
Yes, and they grow up with a lot of gaming, and sometimes I've heard kids call it their character rather than their avatar. And I love words, and I like to know the clear definitions. And I feel like your avatar is you, where a character is like you're putting on a play. But that's my own personal. And so on this other slide, I'm putting up
There you
now.
are. That's lovely.
I came into 3 worlds at the same time with 3 of my
Yes.
avatars, all the same name. I think I was in Opensim, my Kitely avatar, I don't know, and then some other avatar, I don't know. I bump into myself all over the metaverse, and I bump into Mal all over the metaverse.
Yeah, I
The
see an
first-
old Mal down there in the lower right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
put that there. Mal interviewing me years ago at
Years
a
ago.
conference. Yeah, because it's like I would bump into Mal all the time, like in my early years, and I'm like, who is this Mal Burns? But I
That
think
is
it's
great
important
advice.
that
Be
we-
authentic wherever you are. That is
Yeah.
absolutely
Well, and
great
identity
advice.
is a key part of it, and I think we are still trying to understand identity in virtual spaces.
But I do think it's. I agree with, and I tend to just be Thirza, but I'm just lazy. But there are some people who have different avatars for different parts of their lives, and I
Yes.
think that can be quite a useful and interesting thing. It's just helpful if they are open about the fact that it's the same person. So you just, otherwise it can become a bit deceitful if you're completely confused who you're dealing with. But that's also another wonderful thing, that somebody can come in World and maybe they have a situation in their real life which doesn't allow them to express parts of their personality that they would love to express, and they can come into a virtual world and be another person, have a different be a different age, be a different gender, be differently able. There's so many different aspects of life that it's wonderful that it does give that opportunity to people, so you can be authentic while in a way not being yourself, but you are being yourself because you're being your inner self, if you will.
Oh,
And I think that's
yes,
important
I
too.
totally agree. And a lot of us have alts for various purposes. I've
Right.
got an alt
Right.
to come in and film machinima so that I don't get all the instant messages and,
Yeah.
but I put that right in the profile so people will know, or maybe a little sign that says Val Librarian's alt,
Right.
it's just important to in our own mind to be responsible for who we are and why we're
Yes.
in this digital and virtual place.
So tell us more how we can help in Opensim in different grids. So you would like, you was mentioning to me more ambassadors. So what would you want an ambassador to do? Well,
Well, the model that we have is having these quarterly meetings, or mainly hooking all of our calendars up to one location on our website. And we're doing that. We're getting all of the calendars so that people can find by topic of interest. Say you're a science teacher, or say you're really interested in going back into historical simulations, or whatever it is your interest is, you can find that. And so that's why our data, getting involved in our databases and our directories, and you can contact me, Val Librarian at gmail.com. What I like to do as a librarian is be the go-between to match up you and the resource you're looking for, which could be a community, a world, a certain person that shares your passion, and just help you connect. And some of the new people need to be connected to mentors. But you can't force that. That has to sort of
no,
be
of course not.
grassroots, organic. But I've managed to introduce people that share passions, and they're like, "Oh, thank you." And then they take off. They take off being able to do what they love to do and learn and grow. So just being that go-between to join the consortium so that we can and it doesn't mean that you're giving up your identity. We want to point to other people's websites, their sims, the things that they're doing, and not lose their identity at all. Just be part of our library, so to speak, of
Right.
virtual worlds, so we can point to the great work that people are doing.
And I must admit, we found that as we've been going around doing the safari trips, we'll often find people who are working away very hard at something, and then perhaps we'll go visit them, and they'll learn about the safari group, which of course is there's a usual bunch of regulars who often come with us, and many of them are builders, and many of them are
Yeah.
grid owners, and is that not right, James? And
Absolutely.
it's wonderful. We see then that they'll meet up with different ones, and then I'll hear ages later that two of them have decided to collaborate on a project and they're building something together, or somebody had a terrible scripting problem, and somebody like Kelso, who often comes on Safari with us, he's great at scripting, and somebody like him can be a helper and sort out a difficulty that person's had. So, and you see the same thing on Opensim World with people asking questions. Oh, I've got this problem. Can anybody help me solve it? You see it on MeWe too. There's quite a lively Opensim community over there on different groups, and they'll often give each other advice. So it is happening. It didn't used to happen. I remember years ago there were one or two sort of chat rooms, and I can remember asking a question and maybe 3 weeks later somebody answered it. But it's much quicker
Right.
now. There's much more of a sense of being able to mix and help each other, and so that is a great quality of Opensim people. They're very quick to help learn. I was just on
Yes.
SPAC's Orion Sim the other day, no, yesterday I guess it was, and he's built this immense. I was talking about it before. It's called Dismayland, but it's based on Disneyland, and and he's got a poster there, and it says, you know, you can't export anything from this grid because he doesn't want people to steal his stuff. Just rightly so. But he said it says there quite clearly, if you would like me to teach you to do certain things, I'm very happy to teach you. You can't just take my stuff. But that is very much the spirit of a lot of Opensim people, that they're very quick to teach and help people out. So that could be, you know, that could be a great experience for a lot of teachers. Do you envisage people from Second Life, if they knew that they could find sort of the resources that they need, do you envisage more coming from Second Life and moving over to Opensim?
Oh, I absolutely do. And I've talked to several educators who are close to retirement. And when they retire, they're coming straight to OpenSim because of all the advantages. Some are already doing some work in OpenSim while they're also in Second Life. So I definitely see the future of OpenSim growing. And we just, you know, but like I said, we can't be everywhere, but we can be aware of all these worlds. And if we better partner, I would love to share more about the Hypergrid Safari Weekly, you know, so that people are aware of the field trips and can, you know, go exploring. So it's just about sort of spotlighting and sharing what everyone's doing, and that can get really messy, but that's
Yes.
okay, you know.
I'm aware.
I heard Mel, I think. Mel?
Ooh.
Oh, am I
Ah,
back?
I hear him. I hear Mel.
Back.
Oh
Yay.
God,
missed
nightmare
you.
here. I'm very sorry, folks. All hell broke loose here, and I don't know why. I rebooted everything, and then finally I unplugged all the mics and everything and plugged them all back in. And yeah.
I blame Microsoft. That's my
But
go-to person to blame.
I've been listening into a bit of this now, but of course I missed in the reboots and everything. I missed a hell of a lot of what you guys have all been talking about.
You get to watch it in the playback.
Yeah, all I knew is I'll let you carry on. Have you finished your slideshow, by the way?
Yes, this is my last slide, across the metaverse being authentic.
And
Lovely.
I'm in there somewhere. You said I can't see it. Of course, it's miniature on my screen. Okay, I've got the screens there working here too, so I think we'll get them out of the way. I'm just going to. This is part of what we went to on Safari, and I just thought. I'm just playing this in the background just while we're talking. It's not for any particular thing, but I thought since we're on a book day, you know.
Yes, I think Mal is pointing to the fact that we went to. There's this enormous liner. It's called the Aurora, and it's on alternate metaverse grid. It was one of the places where we went on this last safari. It was Ted Jr. who was our guide. He took us all around. He was really brilliant at leading us from place to place. I mean, we probably only saw about 10% of everything that's available to see on the ship. And as Mal is showing you, all the pictures on the wall. And this is in their library. The ship has a library. It has everything you can imagine on a cruise ship.
I love it.
Yes, and the library is used, I think, every week, pretty much, by Richard Mooney. And Mooney, I want to say. Anyway, he does Elf Dreams. He's an author, and he reads his stories I think it's on a Friday. So he's really good as an author, and he reads his own stuff and sometimes other stuff. So it's all in a very it's sort of an elfin, very zen kind of mood to the stuff he reads. Very beautiful. So yeah, that would be the kind of place and the kind of people that you probably would want to try and have in your group.
Absolutely. Writing those names down right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I am.
You know, moving around, it doesn't matter whether it's role play or academic or everything. Libraries seem to be ubiquitous in so many kinds of builds. An ancient castle will have a library.
Yes.
Obviously,
Yeah, that's true.
a school will have a library. It's you know, the library inverted commas, is very much.
Well, you can make it so steampunky as well, can't you? If you're doing
Yeah.
a build that has any kind of romance to it, the library is an essential element. Yes.
The rest,
Absolutely.
And
the
of course,
rest.
we've been to, and Mal will remember this, and James, we went when we went to the ebook library over on
Yeah.
Craft. Do you remember that? All those books
Yes.
about art, that there's
Oh
the whole
yes. Yep.
archive of Carp Diabolus art. Yeah, all those books. That's another nice
And
library.
I always used to like I used to try. I had a desktop virtual world at one point many years ago, Windows 95 I think it was, but you were able to link to a folder, which in my case would be select, folder subfolders of PDFs, and any PDF could be an object on your desktop or your virtual desktop. So you would click on the book, and it would pop out of the bookshelf and open as a PDF. This was all offline. It was long before we had the virtual worlds that we have now, but it was just such a cute metaphor. Rather than go through, directories on the desktop, I sort of set it up so that the bookcase was a hyperlink in itself. Anyway, I'm gonna run these the other silent film that I took here. This is based on Cookie 2 when I actually found it, the island that's you. This is just a brief, there's about 90 seconds here outside the main building where you've got friends of the library. I don't know how that works. Is it a club where you have friends join up?
Oh, that's just a group in Kitely. One of the groups was Friends of the Library before we had the consortium. Now we pretty much put all of our support into the Virtual Worlds Education Consortium
Right.
because, a lot of people don't understand libraries. As you're saying, they've become a metaphor for information. And so they think that they have to come and get a book. And that is not what libraries are anymore. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's difficult to explain what a virtual world library is.
So interesting. I mean, I do realise that because of the long tradition, without books, or at least manuscripts, even old handwritten manuscripts, there couldn't be libraries per se. But I don't know. For most of my life, I think of oh God, now what? That thing crashed on me, didn't it? There's something funny going on here. Right. But I've been able to get DVDs and even videotapes and all sorts of other
Yes,
stuff. It's
all
been
those old obsolete formats.
Yeah, they've always been a very, the library isn't always the quickest of places to get the things. And, they've got their own structure too. I remember I brought out many years ago in the 70s, I think it was, I did an index to underground comics in Britain. Just comics, featuring, cross-referencing artists, writers and whatever. And the guy who published it for me did it because he was going to make library sales. And I do remember now the royalties you got from a single library sale
Wow.
were the equivalent of about 50 royalties from individual sales. They had their own routine, but of course, by the time it had already been out a year before the libraries that took it started, bringing it up and laying it out for people to borrow. So, and I think there are other things with, lending fees and stuff like that. So it all happens slowly. It's a bit like government and civil service. There's, an hour after something is normal, like email. Oh, I think we ought to use it now.
Yes.
I always found that libraries were a bit slow in that regard. This is the final bit of silent clip. This is the main building, Hypergrid Resource Library here. So
Yes, didn't it? I remember you showing me this. Who built this?
Yes, this was built by Bethany Winslow, who's at San
Right.
Jose
Yes.
State University. She's one of our colleagues, and we're really trying to figure out a way to help people learn how to hypergrid. We have resources in there, but we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we're trying to partner with others who have resources about hypergridding so that we can teach people how to do that successfully. So that's a project that we have at Cookie 2. We have 3 projects: the Antique Pattern Library, the Digital Citizenship Museum, and then this Hypergrid Resource Library.
my camera is wandering onto these. I think some of these. At first, I thought there were lots of copies of that table with the same books on them, but I think there's different books on different tables. So it was all.
Yeah, and then you go upstairs to the teleporters to teleport to various communities across the Opensim grids.
Oh right,
Yes, it's a sort of hypergrid hub. They have
Yes.
upstairs.
Yes, and we'd really like to and this is part of the consortium idea. If we find someone who that's their passion is hypergridding, perhaps they could help with this, update it, manage it. It's, not a small group can't conquer all of this, but if we all pool our efforts, there's much more sustainable a future for the Open Sims if we all partner.
Yeah, because just maintaining a portal collection that's a full-time job on its own, because people move their sims go offline, grids close and reopen under another name. So yeah, that's a big task.
Yes.
And it is very much, people do, they have gates, and labels over them. And then there's another region that had built a whole airport, to get,
That's true, yeah.
travel through gates and things. But very few of the portal people actually include any really information about where you're going other than the name of it. You've got to walk through the portal to get there and then explore. On the other hand, you can go to things like Opensim World and they give you a little bit of information, at least about, the destination before you jump. But it occurs to me there's a lot of, any hyperlink you might put in here was obviously likely to include a lot more information. So to see the information and the facilitation come together more would be, a good thing, I think. Especially as Opensim hypergrid or not gets its a reputation for I came in there wwas nothing there and I couldn't find my way around. And,
Exactly.
She won't mind me saying so, but an old pal of mine, Slim Warrior, if you remember her from music and stuff.
Yes.
She came in. I had her on this show a few weeks ago, but she came in here and we opened up. She already had it. An OS Grid account, yeah, and I talked to her about 2 weeks afterwards. She was moaning that she'd been exploring and she'd been to shops and got some kit and stuff like that. And I realised that I hadn't quite impressed upon her properly what the hypergrid was, because for this 2 weeks she hadn't jumped out of OS Grid. So she not only didn't have the information about which grids to hypergrid to, but it didn't actually occur to her that how the hypergrid works. So of course, as soon as I sent her to Opensim World, showed her how to look things up and then copy the grid into the map.
Yes.
She was away, but it's because people come for Second Life, they know it's convoluted, and of course they end up on a grid with nobody in it, because that's not the way the hypergrid and Opensim work. I mean, sort of one grid will be a library. Could be.
Right. It's like this hierarchy of a lot of information. And I would love to partner with the Opensim world. And I think I've got a contact information now, thanks to Thirza, to try to pool that great directory, because that's wonderful to have that information.
They also have a it seems to be relatively new, but they have they host a Mastodon, Mastodon is very much an alternative Twitter.
Yes. Oh, yes. I've seen you're on there, Mal.
I've got 4 accounts on Mastodon already. One was revolved in a browser, but as soon as I saw there was a sort of Malbones at Opensim World available, then I thought, whoa. So I can imagine them extending the Mastodon account can allow people to share probably the events for a stream, for example, refreshes every half hour. But if you've got a Mastodon thing that is running like in real time, like Twitter does, it'd be a very good way of telling people, what's happening at any given instant.
Right.
Anyway, I'm not having missed so much of this.
So sorry.
While I was away, I remember asking about the conference. I presume you, discussed that while I was gone. How are we fixed for time now in terms of James has his
Yeah,
phone.
we have
I
about
think we're
12 minutes. Yeah.
Right, okay. I think we better go. If it's okay with you, Val, we'll move back into the looking back on the thingamajig, safari, which was the very last safari this week. So we've although
Yes.
we're covering a bit more.
It looked great. All of that library is amazing.
Well, that's a very big ship. The library is
Amazing. Yeah.
remarkable, but it's a very small part of everything we saw. It was a great trip. It was organized by Ted Jr. Thanks to him. Clifford Hanger and Cataplexia Numbers are the owners of the grid, but they put Ted on to look after it for us. And this, the image that Mal is showing is actually from a different blog post.
Yeah,
that is about
there were 3 posts this week. This
a
one's called
build by Forrest.
Lady Builds the Blues is what you called this. So I thought we'd start with this.
Yeah, Forrest Azure. She comes on safari quite often with us,
Quite
and
often,
it's lovely to have her. Yeah, and this is her sim, her personal sim. It's a little bit more on the adult side, I'm going to say, and so possibly not great for a safari, but it's a beautiful sim, so worth visiting. And so I got to go there for a few visits and posted this for International Women's Day because it's lovely to see a woman builder just making such a great job of a sim. This is just various aspects of the sim. It's just her personal home area, and she's got the castle, she's got the little Japanese corner, and she's got even a wonderful Hobbit hospital. I think that has to be my favorite part of the whole place.
Yeah, yeah.
Just brilliant inside. It was just so unexpected, and just beautifully done. She's got some really beautiful content in there, and so definitely worth popping over and taking a look at the sim. She's there's lots more on the sim. I didn't cover all of it, of course, because part of the purpose of the Safari blog is to encourage you, the reader, to go and actually look yourself and discover what isn't mentioned. So that's really part of the purpose, to make people curious and
That's great.
and get involved. But as you can see, very high quality and beautiful sim,
Great
and
lighting.
just
Yeah.
she's a lovely
It
lady
is.
too, and she's a singer, which is why it's called Lady Builds the Blues, because she's a
lovely.
singer. She sings the blues,
Lovely.
she sings jazz, and you can hear her in Event Plaza and a few other places, I believe. Yeah, so she's just
What
a
is it? So
delightful
what was her
person.
name? What was her name
Her
again?
name is Forrest Azure.
Oh, right. Yes, the name is sort of familiar.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
just
this is
lovely.
fine.
I
So
really.
yeah, this you'll find a link to this site at HG Safari. That's hgsafari.blogspot.com. And obviously, I'm just running us through the pictures here, but there's conversation and commentary about what happened on the safari there too. Yeah, so we then followed that up with this again, hgsafari.blogspot.com. This is the one about the ship we were just talking about. Now that thing
Yeah,
is 4 sims, four.
I don't know. It's massive.
It's
I,
4 meters
yeah,
long, I
it's,
think.
they tell me these numbers, and I'm just like, you can't even follow.
Yeah.
The only thing we did rubber band at one point, so I knew we'd gone through a sim crossing, but that was the only point when I realized it's just massive, and we really only scratched the surface, because if you go above, you'll find there's a beautiful garden up above. Anyway, that's Ted Jr., who strangely his forearms never did appear for me. There's our star, and this is a build that's he actually gave us a sneak peek. They're having an Easter hunt build, and that's the build for that, an Easter event. And there's Tosha trying the buffet. And this is the part that Ted Jr. built. He built this himself. This is the jazz area, so I thought it was beautiful the way he'd done it. And again, it comes into what Val was saying about all these very talented people. This is also Ted with, with the junk food area. So, and you can see art,
great.
and you can see product there. Sorry, Mal?
So I love the caricatures on the wall there.
Yeah, no, it's very clever. This is the lobby of the cinema. This is the cinema area, which was just, again, very beautifully done. And there you've got the full ship at night. And here we are just going to the library. That's
Oh,
that's part of that's the they've done a really clever thing, which is that they made islands out in the ocean. I didn't get a really good shot of it, but the islands move so that the ship's not moving. But if you look out the window, you can see it appears that the ship is moving because the islands go by. So you think you're moving on the ship, which I thought was a great touch.
I didn't think that at all.
And here we are. We're back in the library here,
Yeah,
and
and
you could just see Ted.
yeah, and this you're probably familiar with these sort of things. Nara Malone do a few things like this, and you know, you've got the book that opens up, and you can walk into it a bit, and
I love that.
it's just using the idea of the book as an icon, really, rather than it's give it a total
Yeah,
function.
Yes.
I really appreciated your film, Mal, because I saw some of the pictures, but I certainly didn't scroll around or cam around to see all of them, and it's great to see them in your piece of film there. I appreciate
Right.
that.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I think that's where the storytelling is done right there.
yeah. Let's go to the film. I don't know how much we get through. Yeah.
Didn't we already see the film?
What from the big ship? No, only the library.
Yes, you showed
Oh,
it
the
before.
library. The library bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So this is where we first arrived. Yeah.
I'm going to whiz through it because of time, but I don't think I showed that here before. Unless I showed it you offline in the week at some point. There you are, of
Oh,
course.
maybe.
Yeah, but there was some.
Oh, I'm glad to see that he's got arms there. I couldn't make his arms appear.
Oh yeah, it was one of those. Yeah, actually, I think it was more the next venue we went to where there was a sort of. I think the grid had a phobia against torsos. You know, it was just
Oh, really?
plenty of rich mesh and everything else, but no torsos available. It's a very odd experience, especially when they got up on the all you need is love dance. Okay, but you can just see the size of some of these ballroom type places.
Yeah, it's very big.
Actually,
But
you know, some
This
of
is
them-
good for
Sorry, I just
this
gonna
is
say-
good for Val, because then she can see how many different looks and different people show up on the safari. You see,
Yeah.
we're such a mixed bunch. There's all
great.
kinds.
I did. I did see you recently, Val, on that. It wasn't a safari, but it was Leah and Leah took. I think it was just Leah. I saw the non-profit commons people. They went to that sort of. I was going to say sex education, but it wasn't. It was about. It had that thing with poses where people.
Yes, that was that in Kitely?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't get any film of that because when nobody was there, it was very hard to show what was going on. But yeah, you know, the idea of you asking the people, do you think this pose is menacing or isn't it?
Right, right. That was our new ambassador, Cooper Swizzle, who teaches that for businesses.
Guess who my camera is following there? Oh, there he is.
James.
He
I
hasn't
fell through
found
the
it-
stairs though.
Yeah,
Here I
it
go.
has.
Whee!
Some bits there were odd, but yeah, this isn't the Easter little sort of thing. It was just in one corner off one of the ballrooms, I guess. Very fairy tale like, you know. So a lot, you know, a lot of little like the library itself, I suppose. Lots of little things in this huge ship, you know. I suppose.
Oh,
it's-
but there's
Amazing.
millions more that we didn't even get
like-
to.
like
We
those-
only have an hour, so
Right.
Yeah, it's like going into a floating city or something, and you know, there are loads of
absolutely.
things to find. Let's move to the next clip. This was where we actually started, I think. I started again here. Alternate metaverse, basically, and a nice logo. The bouncer there. Oh, you got to come up there. I say, yes, I can. I'm in camera. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Valentine's section further up. Just trying to give us an idea of. Oh, this is a nice bit. This is further up too. To get the size of it, there are bits where my camera sort of slips out deliberately or otherwise through the wall to the outside, and you can sort of get an impression of what that bit is from the outside view, whereas it's microscopic basically. Let's see, where do we go from there? Oh, we're going underground by the look of it. Okay, next bit. Here's the library, and I think this is a different shot from the early one I showed you earlier. But yeah, this is my first bit clip of the library, and then I stopped and then did another clip with those things on the wall. I've got them here anyway. That's that was pretty massive. What did they were telling us what they do in the library. I've forgotten. It's actually functionally and in use quite a lot. So, there's that lovely book thing again.
I definitely want to visit this. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I imagine if you're on your own or with just a couple of people, it will be slightly less laggy. I wouldn't even call it that laggy. It was just the size of it. I remember early in Opensim where you couldn't have var files or something, and I'd have several regions together, and the vastness of it, you'd suddenly find things sort of slowed down because you were crossing 4 different servers or something. Okay, I think this is
I think we're starting to be running out of time, Mal.
Yeah, we need to okay, well, maybe we can squeeze a little bit of extra time, but I will right, we'll come. We on this Safari is actually on hiatus now, so we will have plenty of time to look back at some of these films on other shows. The last one I will go to is this was the Medora one. How much have we got here?
You're standing in the middle of a stone circle on Broodmare Hill.
Okay, I did this one. I did a lot of this one in sound because it was really the only way to capture it. So anyway, we went at the very end. We went to the
show with all the best music that we like, known as the Summer of Love, taking in that marvelous summer in the 60s when there's just so much amazing how we dance, what we use with our amazing tools that again Zim has developed for us, and also to give.
Basically, this is a stage which rotates, and also the dancers are operated from a console underneath. And I'll just go back to the one blog of Thirza's we haven't done, HG Safari. Right, imagine a Safari finale. And these are the pictures that Thirza had first. If you want to take over, Thirza, on the voice. Oh, the really strange thing was these sort of wind chimes sort of things that you're running into all over the place. You still there?
Yes, I'm right here. Yeah, here. Yeah, this was our finale. So as you so ably demonstrated there with a bit of film, it was in the event was principally in voice, although Medora did write things out for those of us who couldn't hear or don't really understand spoken English all that well. But it is a very charming sim. It's on Craft Grid, and again they've developed a sort of a script for their sim with these imaginary characters of a sort of French, sort of Middle European kind of look to it. Something in Sardinia, I think, and something is set in France. So they've got these personas that are represented that belong to these various properties. And so we wandered around, we took a good look. There's Ard, who strangely was able to dance with the NPCs. And that's another great advantage of Opensim, that you have NPCs that you can use to make chatbots and make greeters and so forth, which is a great thing.
I've even got NPCs that are reading books. Gosh golly.
Even. Gosh, yeah. So it was a fun end to the to our, and here's a picture of our three the Zimp Rexy there. You got Medora and you got Alicia as well. So all three of them, they're the ones who build it, and they do the scripting. Zimp does the scripting for the performances that they put on, and there's lots of poetry and stuff like that. So again, possibly somebody that Val would be interested in knowing, because they're interested in poetry and performance. So
Absolutely.
as part of the world of education, I guess that fits the bill too.
It really
and this,
does.
of course, is their famous Yellow Submarine audience area. And if you go to the final one, of course, you're going to see Mal dancing.
Wow.
Awesome.
There he is.
Well, I've got. Please don't let off the alarm, James. But I'm going to have to give you the real final one, because that's an animated GIF. But what I've got here.
It's the movie.
Please don't send the alarm.
Love
Yes,
it.
well, this is part of their Summer of Love show that they put on, I guess, when was it? Oof, it's got to be 6 months or more. No, longer ago. And I think James and Amal, you came along with me, didn't you? We went to see them together.
Yep.
I've been here before. Yeah.
And of course, these things are coordinated.
Yeah, Leah and I got a chance to dance here, you see. So
Yes.
we were invited.
Cool.
And also Yara. Now Yara, who's in there too, she does this in Second Life. Because there's a lot of these communities that get together, they're a group of friends, and they plan out these coordinated dances, I guess because there's no NPCs, so they have to do it with people.
Right.
And so she has brought that here. And so this is a group of people who do these coordinated dances. And this whole thing is worked out to a bunch of songs from sort of the late 60s, early 70s, the Summer of Love concept. And they have a whole series of dances that match up with the lyrics of the songs. And so they just wanted to share one. And costumes. It's a huge production. It's very complicated. And of course, they brought that to Opensim, and now they're very much based here in Opensim and bringing the same technology. Obviously, little changes in the scripts are needed, because Opensim can be slightly different to Second Life. But it's great, yeah. They have many more shows planned, I believe, so... Yes, the music definitely makes it, Mal, you're right.
It does.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's everybody knows the song, I think, even if it doesn't resonate with their age or whatever. Off to the right, there's a couple of people missing. They were the ones without torsos. so they.
Yeah, Ziggy's torso. It didn't show up for me either. I had the same problem. I don't know why. His shirt was missing.
Yeah, it seems like that. But it looks good, and the animations do change quite a lot over the course of the song. It's
Oh gosh, it's very sophisticated. It's a really good job that they do.
Yeah.
I was just enjoying the sitting down part of. I think I'm going to have a new rule about no more safaris where they make you run through a 4x4 bar. And you're just like, this is all a blur. I don't know what I saw because it was just too much. So.
Well, you've got James to join you there, the sitting crew.
Yes.
A seated.
There's so many lovely places, and that's one of the reasons why I'm glad we have the safari blog, because it's a way to remember the places that we've been.
Yes,
and that's
it's great.
part of the fun of it. And not all the places still exist, sadly, but a lot of them still do. And certainly the people are still around in many cases. So, yeah.
So important to archive all those trips. Yes, I'm bookmarking it now.
Let me see here. I must have filmed it. Okay, under that stage, which by the way rotates with different scenes for different songs.
Oh, there you got it. Yes, the green room.
The green room. Basically, for each of the songs, we had to sit onto these balls, as it were, and that's where they they organised us. It was all, so the animations were all synced, and each of these lines will be a different song. So when they finish one song, we move forward to the next line, take positions. And then our NPCs, as it were, they're not NPCs, they're our real avatars, would then be sent up a few meters onto the stage. you didn't see the full thing, but while we're down here getting ready for the next song, which ideally is only a couple of minutes, the stage set above us will also have rotated to an environment that suits the next song.
It's amazing.
That's right. And it's amazing also because not only does it has to make all this stuff, but then he has to make it. He makes the scripts work, and then he has to make it comprehensible for the people who come in and want to join in the activity.
Exactly.
So it's an immense job of communication. Just there, you can see how beautifully it's laid out. He's a very talented guy, and Medora and Alice are really nice too. They're just very charming people. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have to leave you. It's been fun being on the show.
Yeah, well, we're about to finish anyway, but you know this, I believe. Medora will be joining us on this show in about 4 or 5 weeks' time, I believe.
We hope so.
Right, okay. So we're not confirmed yet. Okay. Well, I'll pause that for now. Okay. Well, I'm really sorry that Mr. Me managed to miss half of your guesting, Val.
That happens in virtual environments, technology problems. We're used to it.
Very strange. I mean, there've been the odd drop and things like that, and once or twice over the years we've had to restart a thing because everything messed up, but nothing like that.
Right.
It's actually happened to me for I can remember, but
Right.
rebooting everything and still not getting it sorted. But anyway, I'll see it in playback myself. Actually, it will give me an excuse to watch the whole show, won't it? Because I missed half of it.
Okay. Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. So with that, I think we're going to call it a wrap, folks. As you can see, I've been taken totally aback by the old disappearing act, but I'd like to thank James Atlloud here for filming and the audio and all the knobs and everything else. Thank you,
Absolutely,
James.
Mal. It was great. Thank you.
I'd like to thank my co-host Thirza Ember for doing a wonderful job, and especially wonderful job today when she had to do the principal chatting.
Thank you, Mal, and we're so glad you came back. The show is not the same without you.
No, it needs both of us, really. That is the magic, all of us. And, of course, special thanks to Val Librarian Greg from Kitely here, but, of course, all the other stuff we covered. Thanks for being here, Val, and we'll get you back again at some point, hopefully.
Thank you all.
And I can still see us dancing in the background here. It's absolutely wonderful. So thank you to me and Leo for getting on stage there and embarrassing ourselves in public. Anyway, that's it, folks. As usual, I'm going to wish you all a very good morning, very good afternoon, very good evening, or indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. And, of course, whether it's simultaneous or not, because that's the factor this week too. We'll be back next week. Bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye.